As I mentioned, hope you're keeping warm wherever you are. You're safe if you're traveling on the roads. And thank you so much for making News and Views your companion this morning. It's 6 minutes past 8, and we're going to be kickstarting the show with a story that exposes one of the contradictions in South Africa's labor market. It's a known fact. We have millions of people here in the country that are looking for work, but some farmers are now saying they don't have enough workers. This is after migrant laborers have left. Some of the recent anti-immigration tensions that we've seen rocking South Africa in the last couple of months. And we'll be focused on that. Is this matter beyond farms? What happens if crops aren't picked, packed, and moved on time? Eventually, the impact will be felt along the food supply chain. Consumers, you and I are going to be feeling the strain of it. Are we there yet? And I think on the other side of this conversation is a fact that we can't ignore. Are South Africans unwilling to take some of these jobs, or are the wages and working conditions simply not attractive enough? So we're going to be unpacking the story. We're going to be looking at everything and anything that you need to know around it. And we're going to be speaking to Patrick Williams, who's a local organizer with the commercial Stevedoring Agricultural and Allied Workers Union. Patrick, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, good morning.
Patrick, first and foremost, I want to jump right into it. What are you seeing on the ground? This headline that we keep on seeing, that there is a shortage of farm workers in some of the farms across South Africa right now, since those anti-illegal migrant protests have rocked South Africa. Are there really shortages? Can't farmers find South Africans to work in some of these farms?
I won't say there's a shortage of workers in the South African agriculture. As you can see, the unemployment rate is very high. So farmers the reality is stuck with the farmers now, where they have exploited the migrant workers with this piecework that they were doing. So all of a sudden now they come and say when this thing, this march and march is happening in South Africa, they said there's a shortage in a worker. They can't reach the targets, the daily targets that they usually reach, so there's no profit to them. Also in the factories where there's crops and foods are going, they also complaining the foods are not coming efficiently like it usually were when we have migrant workers. So I don't think there's a shortage of workers in South Africa, because why, there's a lot of millions and millions of workers that are still at home, and workers don't want to make use of our local people, because our local people know what the right is, what they must pay, what is the basic conditions of employment, the Labor Relations Act. They know their rights, and workers the farmers don't want to use them. That is the reason why they say now, because they have exploited the migrant workers.
Do we know exactly, which types of agricultural jobs are proving hardest to fill here? Because as you mentioned, farmers are saying, well, they're finding it hard to fill in the targets. They can't get the fruits picked on time. The factories themselves are also complaining, as you alluded to. Do we know which jobs specifically are so hard to fill that you can't even find South Africans to fill them when we have, as you mentioned, such a high rate of unemployment?
Yeah, as we know, we are now in the citrus season, so the citrus that must, and also farmers are preparing now the wine yards for the upcoming harvest, when we're gonna harvest grapes and stuff. So, but now we are in the citrus season, so as we know, farmers only started working citrus like from 12 o'clock until late. So, and as we know, and that time the migrant workers is coming in, they run to reach targets. As we said, the citrus must get off. Now the citrus must go to the pack houses, and the pack house must pack it, and must be exported. And migrant workers that usually make a target of 70 buns, like big buns per day. Like now, there's the farmers complain they only make 40 buns. there's 30 less buns that they are making per day, so they don't reach the problem. The only thing that must be felt is that there's a lot of workers that can do that work for the farmers, but they don't want to employ our local people because, as I said, our local people know what the right is, what the basic conditions of employment, what is the minimum wage, what must be deducted from the pay. So that is what we're stuck now in South Africa.
I want to focus on that, the conditions that farm workers face, particularly those that are from neighboring countries, whether it's Zimbabwe, Lesotho, and Mozambique, which seem to be the preferred choices for employers. What kind of conditions do they work under? The ones that, South Africans simply won't accept. You mentioned the wages and some of the conditions being offered for the farm workers. Are they really that bad?
Yes, they are really that bad. As we've seen, there's no unemployment insurance fund deducted from some of the migrant workers, because the migrant workers, the farmers are making use, as we know, of labor brokers, like in companies that they work under, and those labor brokers are not maybe registered. They don't pay the minimum wage, and those migrant workers must work. They don't even get lunch. They must work from Monday to Sunday. That's how they work. And our South African local people, they are not onto that to work on Sundays, Saturdays, and not get paid the minimum wage. If a migrant worker works the whole 7 days, he will only get the knock off from work with 6 to 700 rand. But they are doing piecework. They are only enriching the whites and the labor brokers. They don't they don't get the profit, but they are working for.
Very, very concerning. And just how much is the agricultural sector reliant on migrant labor, particularly, as I mentioned, people from neighboring countries such as Zimbabwe, Lesotho, and Mozambique? From what you guys are seeing on the ground, do they really make up a bulk of the workers when it comes to the citrus industry, as you mentioned, and other sectors within the agricultural space?
That's migrant workers that make up a lot of space. We've seen the farmers that make a huge profit. They will reach even triple the targets that they reached daily. So they were making a huge profit out of these migrant workers. So migrant workers, they're not people who are like our people that work slow or what. They are running the jobs. They are running. And the profits were very good for farmers. And that's why the agriculture sector is now complaining that they are not reaching the targets that they usually reach.
Yeah, Patrick, I want us to take a quick break. When we come back, I want us to continue with this conversation and to see if there's any recourse. Is there any way that South African workers can get into these industry, and there could be a meeting point between the employers and the potential employees to try and fill those gaps, because it's really unsustainable to be relying on illegal labor that's coming from the rest of the continent while you have unemployed South Africans in the country. But we'll continue with the conversation after this.
Okay.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Right now, over 150 million children around the world are orphaned, facing hunger, hardship, and uncertainty. With Islamic Relief's Orphan Sponsorship Program, you can provide a child with access to education, nutritious food, essential healthcare, and a safe home. Your sponsorship is not just support, it's hope, security, and a brighter future. Be the reason an orphan child smiles again. Sponsor an orphan today with Islamic Relief.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Are you banking with convenience, transparency, and flexibility? With Al Baraka Bank's transactional banking account, you can enjoy convenient everyday banking designed around your needs. Benefit from zero fees on point-of-sale transactions and manage your banking easily through Al Baraka's secure mobile banking app and internet banking platform. From everyday payments to managing your personal or business banking, Al Baraka makes banking simple, transparent, and convenient. Visit albaraka.co.za to learn more. Al Baraka, your partner bank. Al Baraka Bank Limited is an authorized financial services and credit provider.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Past 8 Central African time, and if you just joined us, we're having a really, really important and I think concerning conversation that is very difficult to have because it puts into perspective just how bad things are in the country when it comes to illegal migrant labor and how it is utilized by many institutions, especially in the agricultural sector. I'm in conversation with Patrick Williams. He's a local organizer with the commercial Stevedoring Agricultural and Allied Workers Union, and we're talking about farmers, South African farmers, coming out and saying, well, they are short-handed. They can't reach targets because the shortage of labor in the agricultural sector, because they relied mainly on migrant labor from neighboring countries such as Zimbabwe, Lesotho, and Mozambique. And Patrick, thank you so much for staying with us. I want us to continue with the conversation and to answer, I think, a question that is always thrown at South Africans when these kinds of conversations are being had, or we try and pick out the main factors that have led to where we currently find ourselves, where more migrant workers are being employed than locals, than South Africans. The conversation or the question around South Africans being lazy. I'm sure you've heard it quite a few times. How do you respond to it? The fact that South Africans don't want to work, they miss work, they often, demand more money than the output that they give to the employer. Is that a reality? Is there a case that could be made for employers regarding that?
Yes, that was. Have you seen what's happening? So inflation have gone up, the living wage. Our South Africans, our local people is only asking for living wage. As we can see, the life outside is very hard to sustain with 600. Even if you have 600 rand, the next day that money is out. It's out. Our South African farmers, they are not up to pay that living wage to our locals. That's why they were exploiting, because they have seen they have made a lot of profit out of migrant workers, but they have not deducted the basic stuff that they must do. And also, what outside Africans are mostly asked from employees. After you work 60 years and something, but you retired from a farm with nothing, and now locals are asking now on farm for can't farmers give them a provident fund or some a pension fund, just to when they retire, just to have something after their retirement. And farmers are not willing to do that, and that's why farmers mostly make use of the migrant workers.
Is there a point of, I don't know, meeting between South African local workers and farmers? Is there a way to sit around the table and to see what solution can be brought forward here? Because as I mentioned, it's really unsustainable. When you talk to farmers to try and have them employ South Africans? How do they respond to it? What kind of demands are they making, which for you guys, especially, and I think for everyone really, should be within the confinements of labor law here in South Africa? Are they willing to compromise, and is there a meeting point?
No, they're not willing to compromise. Except there will be a meeting on the 13th of this month on Thursday with the local government, the government and stuff. So we will have a meeting here and with the local farmers. So we'll see what point can we reach. So we as a union will also sit in there in that meeting. What the government is coming to do now, they come here to have a meeting with the local farmers to say how they must employ migrant workers, and that is stuff we don't want to hear how they must employ. The rules and the regulations of South Africa must be in place, and also they must make way to employ our local from South Africa, also to have a job and provide for our families.
And I think in general, it just doesn't make sense to want to do business in South Africa and to want your products to be bought by South Africans, but you don't want to hire South Africans. There's a suggestion that I've read online. Some farmers are suggesting, well, why can't the government create some kind of a seasonal, passport or some sort of documentation for migrant workers to come in and out of the country? You mentioned that it's the citrus picking season right now. So if that is put into place, in essence, you'd have migrant workers that are brought into the country to work for the citrus season, and when it's done, they can go back home. And then when it's, apple picking season, then you do the same thing. That you would come pick the apples and make sure that everything's processed, and then they go back home. How do you respond to that? Could that be a feasible solution, since they seem to be so hell-bent on hiring illegal migrants?
No, I don't think it's feasible, because why must only seasonal, when it's season time, you must bring in migrant workers? Why don't you hire the locals also in South Africa? It's gonna take months and months. It's gonna take months and months for the migrant workers to fix the documents, and still you must bring in them in. They're still gonna be undocumented. So why not employ locals? They are now just to help them. Have you seen that the citrus season must end now at the end of August? The citrus must be finished. It must be off. Then we're going into spring.
Very concerning. Do you think, from government's point of view, they've been quite soft when it comes to dealing with farmers that are hiring illegal migrants in bulk? Do you think they've not been as tough in making sure that the laws are being followed, and those that don't follow the law ultimately suffer the consequences? Because as unions, you can only do so much. Workers and I think activists that are for South Africans being hired can only do so much. But if there's no cooperation from government and they don't enforce immigration laws and persecute farm workers that are breaking some of the labor laws that have been structured around immigration laws, then there's nothing that can be done. Is the government too soft when it comes to dealing with farmers that are exploiting really these illegal migrants?
Yeah, it's absolutely what you're saying. The government is really soft. Have you seen you got that ethical bodies, when there's audits must come and done. They also send out labor inspectors to farms. The farmers will only the farmers will be ahead of this. When there's an audit coming, they will say to the migrant workers, tomorrow I have an audit on my farm. Don't come to work. Labor department is going to be here. So the government is really soft. And then, because as we know, mostly the local farmers got a help in government. So they are supporting government with, they support with money. Even when we go to politics, you will see the politics. Who's supporting politics? It is the rich people that have a lot of money. They are supporting and they say government what must do that. And the rich people is also the people that have farms and that. So they are benefiting from those migrant workers.
Very, very concerning. Lastly, before I let you go, Patrick, you mentioned that there's a meeting on the 13th to try and discuss this issue. What will be on the agenda there, and who are some of the people that are going to be present? And I think most importantly, what do you hope the outcome of that meeting will be?
The people that will be present is, as I said, is the farmers, the local farmers. Then it is the local, it's our government, labor and employment. It's in agriculture. They will be present. All of those local governments, they will be there in this meeting here in my area where I'm living to hear this meeting. So for me, what I'm expecting to be that is that we can reach a point that we said, employ also our local people that are here. If you can see, you can go into town, you can go now to the locations, you will see local people are sitting at home now, not without a job, while there's still a season that must be picked, like your citrus season that must be picked. So I want us to reach a point where you say, no, please employ also the locals.
No, most definitely. And I think this is a story that will continue to follow up quite keenly. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us. It really was a pleasure chatting to you.
Okay, thank you.
So Patrick Williams, local organizer with the Commercial Stevedoring Agricultural and Allied Workers Union. Yeah, man, this is a really annoying conversation. Imagine there's a farm right next to where you stay. Trucks are coming in and out on a daily. People are busy making a living, and you just cut out of it just because you're local, you're South African. There are misconceptions that you're lazy, you too demanding, you don't want to work. Simply because you're demanding basic living wage and working conditions that are enshrined in the Constitution of South Africa. It's the labor laws. Not asking for a lot. It really baffles the mind, when people say, well, we're patriotic South Africans. Springboks, stronger together. But then you run a business and then the same South Africans, people that share a passport and an ID that looks exactly like yours, you see them as useless. Coming up at 8:32, we'll turn our attention to education and the implementation of the Bella Act. There are concerns that the regulations do not go far enough to support teachers dealing with the realities inside South African schools. So we're going to be looking at that conversation and we'll be chatting to education expert, Professor Mary Matlaff, right after this.